Watch with Leonard Gildarie. Alongside, we're waiting Mr. Dr. Uncle Yog Mahadeo. In the meantime, good afternoon, Mr. Gildarie.
Yes, good afternoon to my boys down in the studio here, Raj and Kevin. How you guys doing? Is it okay?
Yes, we're all right.
Um, have you received have you received anything that is good, that is a gift lately that you would want to say thank Lord?
Ice cream.
Ice cream, and where did that ice cream come from?
I don't want to say.
There's a story there, folks, and I'm not going to say it right now. One of these days, I'm going to have it waving over his head. I'm going to tell you where the ice cream came from. It's a state secret at this point in time. I'm not allowed to say. But my mouth tear like the rest of the Guyanese people. At this point in time, I want to say good day to all our wonderful people across this beautiful land of ours, from Berbice to Demerara to Essequibo, and especially Enmore there. I have my uncle there, Francis. How you doing? And a good day down at Grove Diamond, where I live. A good day to you people. Today it's July the 28th, 2020. It's 148 days since the March the 2nd elections. Lots of things to tell you today. Today, the country would have gathered around, as they say, goodbye to one of the most one of the more experienced of union leaders, Komal Chan, and there was a funeral service at his home across the river there, and afterwards the body would be scheduled to go to Ramzeka for where the cremation is set to take place. There were many messages coming, people who would have worked with him. He was a long-serving parliamentarian, would have been through the trenches with the Guyana Sugar Corporation. And you will recall that he made the news recently after it was launched that he went to Cuba, was stuck because of the COVID-19, and he died over there. He and his wife, his remains was there, and the family had to appeal to the government to bring him back. So the remains of Komal Chan came back on Friday, and the funeral is today. So deepest condolences goes out to those folks there, his family and his friends, and many of his colleagues and so on there. In the meantime, we must also tell you that the tourism world in Guyana is also mourning the death of Ian Craddock. Hope I'm getting it right there, who was leading the Bushmaster team there. That's tourism and so on in Region 9, especially made Region 9 his home, came from Britain. And he would have come here, fell in love with the place, and there were many videos and photographs that he would have taken. Loved the rodeo down and let him there, so he would have died to discover them dead a few hours back, yesterday, I think it was. And so the world, the tourism world in Guyana is mourning for that. However, I want to say good day. I see my good co-host, Dr. Yog Mahadeo, is joining us here today, July 20th, 2020, on elections and COVID-19 watch here on Kaicho Radio. A good day to you, Yog. How are you?
Thank you, Leonard. It's been a rainy night, a rainy couple of hours all across the country. I think a lot of persons would have experienced that. So I'm good. You're right. Today is the funeral of that, great soul who stood up for workers all across the country for many, many years. And so it is with a little bit of finality that is going to be closed up. And also, Leonard, we keep on getting all of these concerns about persons all across the country for hampers and food stuff and so forth. And I just want to use this opportunity to say thanks to Brother Intiaz, who is donating another truckload of ground provisions for us to distribute over the next weekend or so.
Yes, Yoga, many decent folks across this good land of ours. They would have come out, those who were a little more fortunate, coming out and helping our people. Thank God for that. Every day we could at least do something for people here it is a way of upliftment. And then while that is happening, there's quite a few who don't really care or not paying attention to the growing needs of our people, growing cries which have been coming out more and more over the last couple of weeks. This situation is getting real desperate, Yog, as we head down to this Tuesday, July the 28th. In 2 days' time, the Court of Appeal is going to be ruling on that appeal case that was filed and heard on Saturday. I must tell you that on Friday is going to be Eid al-Adha, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Saturday is also Emancipation Day, August the 1st. And sometime we may need to talk about that, Yoga. What do the people of Guyana, what it is celebrating here? Because it has taken a different turn now. There was Indian Arrival Day, then it was changed to Arrival Day. So it is at this time here, when we come to August the 1st, what is there to celebrate? Should we be celebrating? Should we be observing? And this is taking into account the events which would have overtaken us. We're not even going back to December the 21st, 2018. We're coming from March the 2nd. And there's some interesting stories here in Culture News, which we'll turn to in a very short while. But we are going to tell you that those are significant dates. On Thursday, the Court of Appeal decisions, that's one. Two, Friday is going to be a holiday. Saturday is going to be a holiday. These things are important to us because there had been some worry, deep worry, over whether the Caribbean Court of Justice would have been sitting, and Caribbean Court of Justice said it's ready to hear any cases during this time here where they're set to go on a 2 months vacation, as has been the case over the years since its formation. But they are willing, because of the Guyana situation, to hear any case that is filed before them. So that's a good thing. And we go quickly to the front page of Culture News today. So this is July 20th, 2020. Urgent matters will be heard, CCJ. We just did discuss that. And of course, we go back to this big blow to the region yesterday in terms of the news. Our world has lost a statesman. This is a CARICOM chair, Ralph Gonzalez, and the death of Owen Arthur, former Barbadian PM. And he would have been leading that Commonwealth team of observers to Guyana for the second elections. He made the news after a meeting and videos surface of a clash with Foreign Minister Dr. Karen Cummins after there was a meeting which was deemed improper by some at the Ashman's building there, where the Region 4 tabulation was ongoing. And so he would have offered to give up his credentials on that particular day. Afterwards, he did come out a couple of occasions and was very outspoken on the situation which was escalated in Guyana after the March 2nd election. So the entire region is coming out now. There's now pouring of grief, and of course a lot of talks about his works and his input and impact on the Caribbean and integration. Ministry report reveals Troy Resources fail to report 12 cases of occupational diseases, and this again has brought to the fore the operation of companies in Guyana and the lax attitude by the authorities to ensure that they abide by all the rules, while our local companies are forced to do that in the hinterlands there. There seem to be a little lax attitude when it comes to the authority paying attention to what is happening. So this company here has a gold mining operations in the hinterlands, and there's a report, very damning report, how they would have treated with occupational matters with regards to workers. And they did not report a couple, 12 incidents, an entire dozen, to the authorities in Guyana. Lo and feel, the conjurer, how GCOM CEO unilaterally made votes appear and disappear. This is a must read. You need to get online or get a copy of Culture News today to read, or what if you have not been following or would have been missing it, or because of the entire confusion. you would not have been able to follow how the situation would have rolled out from March the 2nd. You need to read the story here. How GCOM CEO unilaterally made vote a parent disappear. One man did that. And so that's low in feel. Police probe in bribery allegation against senior Burmese cop, juveniles among 13 accused of killing Sapphire Man. And this is an interesting story here. Surinam's ex-finance minister missing, believed to be hiding in Guyana. This is Gilmore Hudrat. Hudrat. I hope I'm getting it right. If there's any Dutch persons here, I think it's you have to roll the tongue there. I can't do it properly. Yog might know a little better than that. He there's a government change here recently. You recall there was elections after Guyana. There's a government change here, and the Suriname finance minister is missing. That's because there's an investigation over some central bank dealings, and the prosecutors wanted to question him. They went to his address and could not find him, and so there's some who believe he would have crossed into Guyana. It was reported there in the main one of the big newspaper there, the War Retired, that he would have they suspected to be over here. So we've asked Public Security Minister Camarade Ramzan to find out if this is indeed the case, and there's been no response to him. We're not sure if he has read it. The police says that they're not aware of it at this point in time. He may have crossed illegally. So we are going to continue to follow the story here. Guyana records 19 new COVID-19 cases, total now 389. Yog, the number of cases keeps climbing and climbing and climbing. And while that is happening, we have meetings, public meetings, in direct contradiction, contravention, and everything to the public health measures which have been introduced by the government of Guyana. So the government of Guyana is not paying attention, is totally disregarding its own measures. And so it's hard for people or it's hard for me to understand how you want the people to toe the line when on videos that are circulating and everything else, you are not paying attention. So these are things that is going to happen. These are things that we're going to be discussing in a very short while. 3 weeks later, the General still awaits Ocean View $1 billion hospital contract, and this is something that I see surfacing in the newspaper here. We will be discussing that. So Yog, let us get right down to it. At 2 o'clock, we are going to be joining a gentleman by the name of Mahendra Ramkalawan. I don't know if you know him, but he became famous for that song, Dama Watch Me. And if you know that song, it had made, I think it hit the charts again, it is such a thing. And it was a song that was almost on everybody's lips, singing it, humming it. And so he's going to be with us here at 2 o'clock. He would have made the news recently, or he would have gotten the attention on social media. Lots of video there talking about the situation in Guyana. He's in New York right now. So we're going to be joining him in a very short while at 2 o'clock it is. I'm not sure if he's going to get video because he's somewhere on the road, but we're going to call him and we're going to chat with him, maybe get him to hum a few songs. Over to you, Yog Mahadeo. Many things to discuss today.
Many things to discuss today, indeed, Leonard. And let me start off by saying that, one of the Burundi, one of the poorest countries in the world, actually it's ranking 185 out of 189 countries in the 2019 Human Development Index. Burundi had its elections in May 2020, and their president will be sworn in very soon. Everybody is going past us, Leonard. You mentioned that the APNO AFC is in breach of its own COVID-19 restrictions. Without being unnecessarily critical of them, Leonard, it boggles the mind that political expediency continues to take preference over superiority over everything else in this country. As I said, I've watched and listened carefully An hour ago, I was listening to what Amna Ali said in Linden, and I'm shocked at some of the things that were said
She
there.
was up in Linden,
Um,
so that wasn't fake. She was actually up there.
yeah, she was actually up there, and she did give a speech, and I have, I have the recording of what was said there. And I did listen. I do know that Mr. Ramjitan was in some other places having spoken to over the past couple of days. So the meetings did take place. We got some photos of persons turning out. By and large, I'm happy to say that most, not all, but most of the persons that turned up to the meetings wore masks. So that is good. In Linden, the speech I heard yesterday, I think Amna Ali was telling the crowd how on elections day she traveled from one place to another using aircraft. So I'm very interested to know who paid for the aircraft and who used the aircraft and stuff like that. I mean, we got to look at these things because Leonard, pre 2015, those were the kind of things that we were speaking out about against. So the use of state asset, and that's from her own words. She said it at Linden the other day, yesterday. But I also looked and I was careful to examine and ask few people around whether there was any distribution of hampers or stuff like that. There was none, Leonard. So I don't know, political expediency takes superiority over even the livelihood of people. And this is without getting into this election. I'm just talking about politicians, especially those that are part of the incumbent. So those are two things, Leonard. There's a third one. I don't know if you want to get into it. That a message would have been sent in this morning that I think you have in front of you there now, with regards to GRA
Yes, let
and
me read it.
revaluing.
Yes, this is
Yes.
something that you and I discussed. Good morning, trust all as well. I need you to highlight something you could can on your forum. GR is revaluing vehicles imported into the country as they like at the moment. Vehicles are being bought in for 9,000 US dollars and being valued at $17,000. They're being bought at auction, and all the necessary paperwork are provided. Yet GR is revaluing them as they like and to whom they like. Is this right? I think they're doing this to get more money so that the illegal government can grab more. Please highlight to the public, please. I'm not too familiar with the revaluation side of things when it comes to GRA. If you come in and they believe you on the value, I think there's a procedure, but that opens the way also. What I'm going to do here, I'm going to make contact here with the GRA PR people, and maybe they could ask
Yeah.
even Mr. Stacey himself to have a call in here, and we could have a discussion on this issue here, or even a special program, Yog, because we need to have
Of course.
explanations when these things happen. I think the issue, what I'm seeing here, based on this complaint, is that the issues being raised whether it's even handed in the way this reevaluation is taking place. Maybe it's happening for
Well, there are
some and
two
maybe
things
right.
there. Yeah, there are two things there, Leonard. One is the even-handedness, level playing field kind of thing, and the other one, of course, is that GRA might have had its modus operandi, its procedure set out, so they don't care that you might have bought it at an auction. They have their thing. As long as a vehicle is this age and this, they're going to apply this value to it. So to them, it doesn't matter that you went through whatever you would have done to buy something at an auction to get it cheaper or stuff like that. They just apply this thing. The other thing that happened is that, if you do not, and here is the saddest thing in the world, I think that is happening here in Guyana. If you do not agree with the GR evaluation, you can appeal it. Guess to who? To GRA. So you have a snowball's case in hell, basically. You appeal it to GRA itself. They have their own committee. And even if you decide to take the GRA to court, Leonard, you must pay 100% of those taxes down before you move further. So, tax reform is obviously necessary in the country. I mean, I am not, because you and I don't know the details of the procedures of this particular aspect of GRA, then we cannot pronounce on it except to say that it sounds strange that one would try one's own case. It's like, it's like what Lowenfield did there, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was judge and jury and excuse me, executioner. He decided APNU AFC said Leonard Gildarie documents wasn't there, so therefore he didn't vote, burn his ballot. So you are your own judge, you are your own jury, and the people whose vote, or in this case, the people whose money, the people whose taxes you're collecting, the person doesn't matter. What matters to them is that they must get their money. One would also expect, Leonard, under these COVID-19 times, we need to also ask about whether, there has been an ease of taxes on telephone, on internet, for example, where this government started to tax your internet, and whether any of those things are being reviewed and looked at.
Mm-hmm. Well, this you and I have been talking, and there's been many calls from our people for different measures to be introduced, but not only because of this COVID, but the more money. I think I'm not the economist, but I think it's more in your area, Yog. But one of the things that has been coming out pretty often is the recommendation that the more money that you put into people's pocket, that's basic fundamentals. Is the more money that's going to be circulating. So if it is that you reduce the taxes, especially on basic things like your top up onto your phone, your monthly bills and so on to GPL, GT&T, among other things, it is going to put some more money into your pocket. Whether it's $500, whether it's $1,000, that's more money. And we have been beating them around the head since for a couple of weeks now, a couple of months now, to see how they can introduce this thing. GPL now has introduced some new system. I'm yet to hear. Maybe we'd have to start calling them to find out whether they're doing anything as to how people could actually benefit, whether people are benefiting from this offer to have a repayment plan. They're saying if you can't pay your bill to GPL now because of the COVID-19 hardships, that they have the possibility to give you some time to pay. That's what they're doing. They're not going to waive it. They're going to give you time to pay. And so you could sit down with them and do that. But the problem is you'd have to do that online. We're going to probably ask this girl here from GPL, that is the PRO, I think Chevion Sears, to probably come on and then tell us a little bit that. The problem is many times that we have is that these people are not available. The PR people who are supposed to be the front line talking to the media, they're not available. You call them on the phone, they're not thing. So let us see. We're going to try them back and see how we could get them so they could be able to tell the people. People want relief and they need to know. But the problem is our authorities are not really in tune. I did tell you yesterday about some persons getting on to the WhatsApp group. They say people reading the WhatsApp and nobody is answering. They're not returning any responses, any calls or anything. So what you see is places like courts being a little more proactive the minute that they, or in fact, if you were to pay tomorrow, they call you today and tell you, you got to pay. You got to pay up. So these are the little thing that's funny as it sounds. It's a reality that we're dealing with on the ground. One of the staffers today did point out to me that they had a report from the COVID-19 task force in Trinidad. And when they give information, it's so very detailed, Yoga. I'm going to probably try to get a, let me try to get a copy for you here. But if you see how they do it, they give it which hospital, how they did the test, and everything. So people know which region and which areas they got to stay out of and so on. In Guyana here, it looks as if you got to, it's like pulling a tooth because the information is very sparse. It comes out till 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon from somebody who sits down at the back office gathering it. We have not heard from the COVID-19 task force, which is being chaired by Moses Nagamutu at the moment. He's gone. He's continued his writing in the Guyana Chronicle. No, you call it another name. But in the meantime, COVID-19, he has not addressed this nation for a very long time. Neither has there been a press conference from him. So if you're listening, sir, the people have been asking us what is happening, especially in Region 7, 8 to a lesser extent, but definitely region 7 and Region 9. Region 1 has been getting major issues there, especially around the Santa Rosa area. So let us see how we could have an improvement there. I think we are going to try with Mahendra Ramkalawan, the Mawatma boy. He's going to be on in a very short while. Our apologies, we can't get him on video. He says he hasn't been able to get anybody to do the videos and so on. So we're going to have to take a call to him. So we're going to be with him in a very short while. Yog, this evening we're going to prepare for a big room 592. In the meantime, while we get Mahendra, could you tell us what we're expecting?
Yes, this evening, as you know, what's Mr. Nagamoto et al., APNO FC would have released a statement saying that they are open for negotiations. We also know that a number of political parties made certain releases about their take on the call for negotiation. But tonight we want to have a chat with them. So tonight we're going to have Mr. Timothy Jonas, Ms. Rhonda Lam, Bishop One Edge Hill, each representing their own political party. We were also going to get Mr. Lennox Schumann, but unfortunately he is gone to spend a couple of days with his people out of the city. So I spoke to him yesterday. He did give a message which he would like to share, which we will share tonight. But so tonight the discussion will be exactly on that, Leonard, to negotiate or not to negotiate with APNO AFC, especially if they continue to hold on to power illegally.
Absolutely. Do we have Mahendra on the line? Mahendra Ramkalawan, how are you doing, sir?
Yes, Mr. Gildarie. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to Mr. Yog Mahadeo. Good afternoon to all the fans and family friends down in Guyana. On behalf of all the concerned Guyanese and even people from the Caribbean here in New York.
So which part of the world are you coming from, Mahendra?
Right now, as I speak, I'm in Brooklyn, almost to Manhattan there.
Very
so
good.
I just stopped.
We have very beautiful weather. We had some thunderstorms this morning. Well, thunders rather. Are you getting anything like that over there, or is it hot? Because I know you're in the middle.
Well, it's super hot here. It's 97 here today in New York. So
wow.
It's going
I heard they had some blackouts in Queens last night.
Well, I didn't have any blackout. Somebody didn't pay the bill. I didn't know about that.
No, I was told that there's some parts of the Queens. I think it's the Queens Village or somewhere there that they had a blackout. So I got there down. So people down in there in Queens, and so yes. Yog and I decided to bring you on today. We see you've been hitting the social media and so having your messages coming out and so. But today, specifically, you did come under the ire of Minister George Norton. And so we want to chat with you a little bit that and what is it that you're doing, whether you bring out any songs. But you have been coming on to Facebook, social media, and you have been calling for a recognition of the recount figures. Let's get this over with and done so we can move on. Tell us a little bit that, because you're a musician, not a politician.
Well, Leonard, yes, of course, I'm a musician and a promoter, and I've done a lot in Guyana with bringing up the youths and everybody and those big clash of the titles and so on. But listen, we are concerned Guyanese, and we must voice our concern just as well as everybody have the right to voice their whatever message you want to send out and stand up for the right of the people. So I have a group here that, we talk normal like them boys talk, and, people really concerned about what's happening in Guyana, because you're seeing every single news and everything that's going on in Guyana with the social media is very, very fast and easy to connect it. So coming out and talk is a free wall, a free speech, and all these things. And we cannot see with our naked eyes what is happening. And this big I don't know if we call it rigging. I don't know if we call it gangs. I don't know what to call it, but everybody is seeing with their naked eyes what's going on in Guyana, and what's happening here with the people in New York. We're talking out plain and straight what's happening. The people is calling me, Mahendra, what's going on all day. I almost got to stop the vehicle and answering people calls, what's going on in Guyana. So I don't know. There is some Norton, whatever he named, George Norton. I know one Norton from the PNC days, Bonham days, somewhere back.
He is a minister. He is a minister charged with sports and among other things.
Oh, he's a minister there.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Because one of them guys told me the Norton is from the PNC house at the back, so fire all the Nortons. So I don't know. I never heard about that person before. The first time I heard about him. But I want to thank him if he's listening. I want to thank him to recognize Mahendra now, recognize the culture and so on, that what we did for the country all the time. So I really want to thank him.
What did you do and what did he say to you?
Leonard, I'm not hearing you clear. Can you say that again?
What did he do and what did he say to you? What did he say that you did?
Well, I see 100 people sending me message that, he was on some news, Norton was on the news, and he's saying that Mahendra is wrong to talk out the right of the people. Mahendra is wrong. He's saying I said to throw water and spit on Ramjatan and Nagamutu. But we are concerned citizens, and we're not saying that water and spit on Nagamutu is not literally water and spit. Did he hear the video completely? I said, don't harm them. Don't throw anything liquid that's going to harm these people. Don't harm the family. I say that. The news, some of the news, I don't know who news, PNC, whatever news, they are just craft out what they want to hear, and that is what they think on. The other thing is, Leonard, which I want to touch, we have seen so much thing on social media with these. They had a girl saying, give she a gun, she's going to shoot the president. That's Dr. Irfan Ali. You had this guy making poison, literally making poison and showing the people how to make it to poison the PPP supporters. We had a guy with guns and bullets saying this one is for Irfan Ali, this one is for Barra, this one. And so much I can call a Ben Kak. This guy was named Ben Kak. He whole day doing
Ben Scott.
Is it Ben? Oh, Ben something. And then you have this Burke from Brooklyn there every day. They have one with a tie, and he in a vehicle, and whole day he's share racial things and inciting violence and all these kind of things. So I'm asking that Norton or George, whatever he name or whatever minister he is or former ministers, he need to call out on them as well. I never say hold a gun. I never say anything like that. I am basically saying Nagamutu and Ramjatan deserve to be shamed, knowing they lost the election and don't want to concede. They deserve to be shamed anyway. Guyanese see them, they mustn't give them the same respect that they give them in 2015, because these are the people put them in 2015 into election, into power, and these are the people take them out back. So that is all I want to say at this moment.
So you think you're being picked on?
Say that again.
Do you think that you're being picked on, that he decided to single you out?
Well, of course, because as an entertainer, I'm not the most popular person in Guyana. You have this guy Chow Pao every day on the same racial thing. You have Keskadi. You have so much of them guys there who's very popular too, and he. Why not call out on them? Why pick on Mahendra Ramkelawan, specific Mahendra Ramkelawan?
And Yog, I like George Norton. I'm going to try to get the statement that was issued by him with regards to Mahendra here. George Norton, a couple of years back when I had a problem with my eyes, he operated on it, and so I like him. But I haven't heard during this time here in which there's so many explosive kind of statements that are coming out on social media here against people, attacking them, and I'm not hearing a statement. This is why I was extremely surprised today to see a statement. I said Mahendra is in deep trouble now wherever he is. Maybe some thoughts from you, Yogi, if you have some questions for Mahendra.
Leonard, I in this 146 days, it's been some strange times in Guyana. And Mahendra, I know you have been let me say this, Mahendra. You have been an impetuous young man, right? You have been, you have, he has been saying, I think we lost him. He would have been saying things, I think, that might have stepped on a number of persons' toes. Entertainers have been allowed to have the laxity of being creative and sometimes out of the park creative kind of thing. I was kind of surprised to see, that he was called in. But Leonard, a lot of strange things has happened, and I don't put it past the authorities for doing that. And what I want to say as well, if anybody, if Mahendra has been called in to be spoken to for whatever he's saying, the evaluation has to be Mahendra's right versus the right of other people, and he'd be stepping on other people's toes. But at the same time, Leonard, I think a Mahendra or anybody else would want to say, let that be applied to across the board, to everyone. And I think that was Mahendra's message just now, that he don't feel that the same vigilance and the same kind of thing is being applied across the board. So that is something that I think we need to look at. We need to see and ensure that it's being applied across the board. I can tell you, I have heard some horrifying statements coming from, two gentlemen who hold government positions presently, and they use the state media airtime to air these things. And I don't see them being a person of interest for the ERC. And I'm telling you, Leonard, I would not deign to even to repeat what they have said on air here. It is dangerous. That's the only word to describe it. It is dangerous. And another word to describe it is inciting. But they were allowed to get away with it.
Absolutely.
And the moment you go and you oppose it, you are being accused of something. I mean, for somebody to come on television and say that Keith Lowenfield private criminal charge is Josh Kanhai, and everybody else who filed a private criminal charge against Keith Lowenfield did so because of Lowenfield's race. What are you saying, and how inciting are you now becoming?
Wow. Could you guys raise the volume a little, please? Yes, thank you. Are we back with Mahendra at the moment? Mahendra, you there? Yes, Mahendra, you back?
No, not.
I'm not sure. We're going to try to. I think Yogi would have lost it. But this is indeed troubling that for everything, we've been receiving a lot of complaints about the kind of language that are being used not only in the social media pages that are live, but also on different forums that we'd be seeing, and especially on social media, coming, the bringing the racism thing into it, talking about the ethnicity of a person and why the reasons people do certain things. And I hear you what you're saying, Yog, and I'm extremely shocked at this point in time as to what exactly it is that the the ARC, Ethnic Relations Commission, would have been saying with this. We would have been spending money, something I said a couple of weeks back, on these bodies, these constitutional bodies, which they have a very, very important responsibility, mandate to the people of Guyana to look into these things here. And especially around this time here, when there's elections, that is when you come to the fore and put down your foot, because you have the powers behind you to basically say, look, Yog Gildarie, your program is not up to par. You need to pull yourselves up, or else we are going to put sanctions on you. More so than ever, the Guyana Human Rights Body, the Ethnic Relations Commission, they did make a statement recently stating that they have an issue with manpower. Now you have George Norton. We have an entire ministry that was created from 2015, the Ministry of Social Cohesion. What works did this ministry do? And in terms of what would have transpired this year, I think we would have erased all the gains, if any, that would have been made from 2015. And guess what is the sad thing about this, Yog Mahadeo? The sad thing about it is that this same government would have created that would have created this ministry is the one to be blamed. There could be no other explanation. They're the one to be blamed for what is happening here with this ethnic divide that we've seen, this growing divide. Because if you see some of the language that is coming out now, I have to shake my head and say, wow, we really, really sunk to a new low. That's why I wrote over the weekend that I think we've fallen as a country. We have really, really fallen as a country, as a people, when it comes to the love that we would have had for over the years. While we would not go out with each other and drink, we living right next to each other. We would do whatever it is as a neighborhood. When you see Pagua comes on, not Pagwali, when Pagua comes on, you see everybody comes out wetting each other, playing with the powder and so on. Diwali, everybody walks down the road. The lovers are there holding hands, going along the road, Yog. All of that, we have been couple months, we have swept it away. So ERC, the George Nortons, and everybody else, not good enough at this time. Yog, do we have back Mahendra? We are going to try back our apologies there. Mahendra is somewhere in Brooklyn there, and we are going to try to get him back. But what you would have been hearing is that he has come under some sharp words from Minister George Norton, who's in charge of youth and sports and culture, and he would have said that Mr. Ram Kalawan, who's known for his song Dama Watch Me, would have made statements which is inciting violence against politicians in Guyana. However, Mr. Ram Kalawan has come out and say, why are you picking on me? I am just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. That I did not really use those words. But there are others that you should be paying attention who's been a little more explosive in the language than I am. Yog?
Yes, Leonard. The issue is, of course, to ensure that we can have even-handed approach by all. I want to share with everybody as well that Leonard Schumann was called in front of the ERC because it is alleged by the ERC, this is not any complainant anymore. It is alleged by the ERC that he came on Kaito Radio and he made disparaging remarks about the ERC. Now, this has nothing to do with ethnic relations anymore. This has to do with Schumann saying what he said about the ERC. So when Schumann returns to the city, of course, we're going to welcome a chat with him on his meeting with the ERC there, Leonard. But to your point, I think we continue to assess how the various authorities are evaluating what's happening. You have persons making all kinds of statements. Leonard, as I said before, you have two persons on one set or one airway saying all kinds of things about the judiciary, saying things about magistrates, saying things, and nobody's saying anything. Nobody's stopping them, thankfully. And I wish to say a public thanks to Mr. Nigel Hughes. And I know it was followed up by Mr. Kemrad Ramjatan. Both of them admonished, and I was happy to see that. These people for their reckless, slanderous statements against the judiciary. But Leonard, it doesn't stop. It just continues. And, it's like they're saying that they'll do whatever they want. The equality and rule of law will only apply to certain people in this country. I mean, you go and you have a church service tomorrow, now. You go to any church, mosque, mandir, and try to bring together 50 persons to have a sermon and have them sit 6 feet apart and wearing masks. See if you'd be allowed to do so.
Well, what we're telling these people here, and I'm going to be very careful. If I step out the line, please, as my lawyer, my counsel, right now, I'm going to have to ask you to pull me in back. If it is that you could hold a meeting, somebody asked the question recently, if you can't hold church, but you could hold a public meeting, what does that say about our society? I'm hearing some feedback here. Yes, our apologies here. Um, if it is that you could hold church, you can't hold church, but you could hold political meeting. What does that say about our society, Yog? And so I want to come back to these things, to the work of the ERC, because we cannot allow them to get away with this. The ERC has been given the mandate, their laws, very specific laws that govern when you make statements. I can remember in the past when Barjagdo it was that went to Babujan.
Yes.
He was pulled up because of statements. These are widespread and powerful bodies, constitutional bodies, the ERC, in which members of civil society sit on. And whenever there's anything, so the question somebody asked whether Roshan Khan is sitting on that ERC committee. I'm not sure. I got to check back the names of it. But whatever is the case, these are bodies that has representatives, and I'm sure whenever they see, they're watching these things. These videos are making it its way out there. People are clipping it and they're sharing it across. It's going right across, and people are commenting on it. You mean to tell me it's only Yog and Gildarie and a couple of people are seeing these things and it is worrying them, or a couple of people who are overseas that are seeing it, it's worrying them? There have to be somebody. These are watchdog bodies, Yog. They're being given millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. What I am going to say here, it would not go down well. You've been
Correct.
noting the attack on the judiciary, on judges. We look at Roxanne George. We look at Priya Bihari. I'm not saying that I back the politics of anybody or anything. We don't at this newspaper or this radio here. I could speak on behalf of myself. Yog is very quite capable of speaking on behalf of himself. We here to present the news, present the facts as it is, and if the laws are not being followed, we are going to go according to that. So there's somebody going to say who determines the law and whatever it is. At the end of the day, you know what the laws are. We are going to present our side to it. So guess what it is today? These people are being attacked. Everybody from politicians to media persons to judges to anybody who does not agree. And the ERC does not say anything, or they come out and they say that we're short of manpower and we can't monitor everything. If there's any time that you should be monitoring anything, nobody's going to fault you if at this point in time that you hire a couple of people, there's media people who's out to work, and let them sit down in front of a couple of monitors like what the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority is doing. They have a couple of people sit down under the monitor, and right now as we speak right now, I'm almost sure that this program is being monitored. And so that is indeed the case. I expect them to do that. That's their job that they're doing there. What is the ERC doing during peacetime? This is not peacetime, York. This is a very critical time for us. Our people are under stress at the moment. That's one. Two, we have Mahendra back? Okay. We don't. Okay. We've been trying. Our apologies there. So during peacetime, during normal times, the ERC is not under stress to really look into it. The job, therefore, to prove their worth, to prove that they're carrying out the mandate, would have come at a time like this, Yog. If there's no other time that they should be doing the jobs, it is now. And guess what? They're very, very silent. When the Social Cohesion Ministry should be making statement, silence. What is going on in this place, Yog? That we should take it, everything else. The other day, I think yesterday, a man called into the program, his right to call and give his opinion. The man is talking about the rule of law, about a couple of other things. You ask him a simple question. There is a decision by a court, a final court, the highest court, the apex court, the Caribbean Court of Justice. How do you look into that? So when the rule of law does not count, what do you do when a judge tells you something? What do you do when a policeman stops you on the street and the policeman said 6 o'clock that you cannot hang on the road anymore? All along the East Bank there, you go in Grove, the police station is here, next door, big party going on, all the cars there blasting music. Past 6 o'clock in the afternoon, police do nothing. What are we doing, Yog? What are we doing?
Yep, indeed, Leonard. And also, you mentioned the ERC. There is the media monitoring unit.
Which media monitoring unit, Yog?
Well, there is supposed to have been a media monitoring unit, isn't there? And Leonard, the other thing that we need to keep note of is, I hate to say this because a lot of times whatever we say comes under tremendous attack, but things need to be said. The police and the police intelligence, and I'm not talking about the intelligence level of the police, I'm talking about their intelligence gathering. The police, the intelligence they gather, Leonard, so the police, as we said yesterday, would know that there is a funeral happening in some village, some remote area of this country, and they go and they lock up the pandit or the imam or the pastor that is there preaching for the funeral. Right? Now, remember the funeral or the religious function or whatever it was. When you have a funeral, they don't announce it, but the police somehow hear that there is a funeral and they go and they lock up the people there. But yesterday and over the past weekend, the PNC people, they announced they were going to these places, not even a statement from the police. And Leonard, I rather suspect, when Granger said he maintained and he retained one of the top police, the top cop, away from, maintained him or kept him from going from leave, maybe these are the reasons why, because top cop has been very, very silent all along. Now, the other thing you have to look at is also the way things are happening in country as we speak. Some people are going to work, some people cannot go to work, people are starving, but at the same time, Leonard, you have a situation where the police knows or sees persons gathering in front of the court and do nothing. And guess why? Guess why? Because senior member of the PNC administration is in front there in the crowd. You have seen the photos, you know who they are. They are part of the crowd, and they are part of the crowd so as to tell the police, well, we are here, don't do anything.
Yoga, these are very, very worrying statements. And I tell you what, if it is that they're behaving like that now, and there's a role for one and there's a role for the other, I'm going to enforce it because you are maybe you're a different person from this person. I don't even want to go to the ethnic side of it. I don't want to foment that kind of thing here. But the reality is, why would you have a public health measure that is announced, that has been gazetted, that says this is the way that we are going to deal with COVID-19? We're going to close the borders. We're going to close the airports. We're going to close all bars, non-essential, the word non-essential, if you didn't know it before, you learned it during COVID-19. It says that you must close any business, this including clothing. Clothing is not essential. We're going to close all bars. We're going to close all hairdressing salons and barbershops. We're going to close all restaurants. We're going to close the movie theaters. The malls were closed. Yog, why would you want to close that and allow barbershops open? Why would you want to continue to close all these places which got scores of persons, hundreds of persons employed, and allow a salon to be open? Why would you do that and allow a bar to open that's right next door to a police station? You want to tell me that the police don't know that you want me to tell you where it is? Go to Grove Police Station. I have good friends there. I guess they would stop talk to me after this. That's okay. It's happening in Grove, right along the Old Grove district, not the new Diamond Grove area there. In the Old Grove district there, the police station is here. All around there, everybody partying. The police is not seeing that. But they're seeing whenever a pandit is holding a wedding or whatever it is that's happening there, that somebody, they would charge them, put them before the courts. In front of the courts, which is supposed to be the number one place in which there's going to be justice. Nobody's there. Nobody's saying anything. There's not any arrest or anything. Because what? If they arrest them, there's going to be some action that's going to be happening there. I guess somebody would be throwing water on the police or something, and nobody's going to do anything because that's how it goes. It's a Wild West place. We have to talk it as it is, Yog. We got to stop whitewashing it, painting it with something else and call it it's not a duck. So that is it. There's plenty parties. People are saying here in the middle, damn, Middle Dam on the west bank of the American Canal, number 2, nobody's stopping them. Every weekend, I think it is, there's barbecue going on, house parties. I did say the other, every night I go along the East Bank there is a adults entertainment bar, lots of cars, the parking next to the corner or a couple houses away. It is not any pretense anymore. The police, if they're doing intelligence gathering, instead of standing and seeing whether Gildarie is speeding along the road, they should be doing these things. But guess what? COVID-19 measures is a big joke and the police is a big joke because the people are not going to be paying attention to them. I'm not saying that the entire force is like that. It's the hierarchy going to decide whether they want to ensure that they put law and order into this place here, or it is that they are going to answer to someone and put it in a piecemeal manner, or sometimes let's see whether we could do it for Yog Mahadeo and not for Gildarie. That's what it is. So, Yog, I'm not sure if you have anything else to say, but the ERC, definitely, the Guyana Human Rights Association, which I understand is even a one-man party or one-man body or two-person body, these are things that we have to look out. Where's Transparency International? What are they saying? Where are the other watchdog bodies who in Guyana, the Bar Association, the rest of you guys? Where the women's body? What are they saying? You guys need to wake up, Yog.
Well, I know that there were some of the bodies, for example, that would have spoken out when I can't remember who would have been under attack. I think it was the chairman, Claudette Singh. I think some of the women came out and they asked for people to cease and desist from attacking the chairman of GCOM, but I haven't seen the same being said to the magistrate who was promoted to judge and then who would have been promoted to the Court of Appeal to hear these cases. I haven't seen anything against statements being made against Ms. Priya Bihari Shivanarayan. I haven't seen anything being said against the attack that has been launched upon Madam Roxanne George, Chief Justice. So indeed, I think it is selective reasoning. It's that type of country we live in, Leonard. What makes us sad is a lot of times, what makes me sad, is I'm always thinking, Leonard, when this election, it will be one day over. When it is over, where do we go from there? And a lot of persons' actions are not contemplative of the future. They're acting based on what their political masters telling them to do today. Nobody's looking at healing. Nobody's looking beyond. We are beating each other up about who's right and who can speak loudest maybe, not who right and wrong anymore. Who has most people to say who stole and who has most people to say who rigged? Who speaks the loudest about allegations, not evidence? And so that's what gets this country in the way it is presently, Leonard. And the truth doesn't matter, and the future doesn't matter, and people are forgetting one day we will have to start reconciling and putting these things behind us. And those people who are damaging the society the way it's being damaged presently, like those two gentlemen, to say that Lowenfield is only being charged because of his race, that is as damaging as it could get, Leonard.
And we are looking at that situation very, very carefully. I guess in the coming days we're going to see a different kind of attitude towards what should be an intolerance to people who foment, who push this agenda that divides our people. We should be intolerant of them. Mahendra Ramkelawan would have been here. Unfortunately, we would have lost him. But you could hear the frustration in his voice, although he's living over there. These are people who look at it and you hear the nonsense that are coming out of people's mouth. Let's put this thing back in perspective. There is a vote that is administered, or there's voting day administered by the Guyana Elections Commission. Okay, so the process was questioned. There's a recount. This is somebody. It is the president who would have said that I was the one who called me Motley and says, could you fix this? There was an agreement between that, the presidency and the opposition leader and Mia Motley. Today we question him. the legality of it. You imagine that?
Correct.
Today we questioning and we're saying that we did not delve or we did not interfere into the workings of GCOM. Who we
And
really
Leonard,
fooling? Who we fooling,
eh,
Yog?
that's right. And Leonard, you spoke earlier, both you and I spoke earlier about the lack of even-handedness with regards to COVID-19 restrictions. I want to remind everybody, some of our youngsters in Linden were fined for breach of curfew, right? Some of them, you remember, I don't know if it was up at the East Coast, a gentleman was charged by the magistrate and ordered to stand by the roadside and display a sign that I breached the curfew, I breached the regulations, the COVID-19. There were 101 persons all across the region 6 that were arrested and fined. So Leonard, it speaks to how selective the authorities have been to arrest these people and fine them. And now we come back to, so I just want to ensure I bring that up for us for the country to realize that there was a time, just recently, that persons were being hauled in front of the magistrates, in front of the courts, and action was being taken. They were fined, they were charged, of course, they were fined. And they had to, some of them had to undergo some public stuff, humiliation. But Leonard, all of a sudden it seems to have gone, and one don't know how is it that we can continue to have a breach. As I said, 5 persons appeared in front of magistrate Wanda Fortune, fined for COVID-19 curfew violations in Region 10. They were all fined $16,000 each. Failure to pay the fine would have meant they served 3 months in prison. Oh, what goes for one has to go for all.
This
Those
why
poor youngsters
this
in Linden there, they had to fine $16,000 and pay the court or face 3 months in prison.
which brings the spotlight right down on the police force. The spotlight comes down on the police force, and if you're listening to us here, Mr. Commissioner of Police, I know you as a decent gentleman. When I saw that they would have selected you when you were appointed, I said, this is a decent man. When he was a commander of Region 3, I think it was Yog, I spoke to Mr. Leslie James on a couple of occasions, very mannerly, very respectful, and I said, I felt good about it. But it seems as if the police force seems to be headless. If you're in charge of a place and you're receiving so much criticisms, inaction is something that you should not be accused of when you are head of an organization. You have to be proactive. If the people are raising issues, like we were asking you, what is happening in front of the court here? This is the Georgetown Magistrate Court. The cameras are on there. Everybody there. The police are standing. Our reporters come back and says, "Oh, you're from Kaichur News. You write nonsense, and that is the thing that is happening." The police are standing there. No protection for the young lady. It could have gone the other way. And so when you're doing, and there is a gazette, official gazette publication, several publications, in fact, when it comes to how the laws or how the regulations of the public health ministry should be enforced when it comes to activities. Who should be on the road after 6 o'clock? The police would stop me on the road after a certain time, and the police says, "Are you essential worker?" I said, "Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am." That is how I expect them to do it. But guess what? In the plain eyes, in front of the cameras, we can't do it. What is the police commissioner doing? Is he paying attention? Is he listening? Or is he safely protected in his offices at the Valerie there? Sir, we're not going after you personally. We're going after the fact that the police force seems not to be doing its job. The ERC is not doing its job. The human rights. And having said that, Yog, the women's body, it's not because a woman would be coming out and something is happening with her that would activate or would push the women's body into some kind of actions. It has to be anything that affect women across this country. This elections is affecting women. The political situation is affecting women. The COVID-19 affecting women. Why are you not opening your mouth? It should not be a situation where it's politically okay for you to open your mouth at that time and issue a statement which goes and is relegated. You should be agitating, making things. That is what you're there for. That's why you have been formed, established. I'm not sure, Yog, but I think these are thoughts in my head. Yog, you there?
Yes, Leonard.
Yes.
Sorry
Yes.
about that. Yes, Leonard. And the other thing, we raised something yesterday. I wish to confirm that if you go on the Guyana RAG website, you go on the Guyana RAG website. For those of you who have not followed our program for the past couple of weeks, the Guyana RAG is also known as the Guyana Chronicle. If you go on the Guyana RAG website, you could find that Mr. Ganesh Mahipal is the general manager acting for the Guyana Chronicle. Leonard, again, it speaks to what this the incumbent is doing and how they are actually providing jobs for the boys, so to speak. Whether there has been an advertisement, whether there has been interviews, whether there has been a job check for suitable candidates and stuff like that, nobody knows. Do you know, sir? You're a senior journalist.
What is the question again, Yog? I didn't get that.
Mr. Mahipal is, if you go on the Guyana Chronicle website, Mr. Mahipal is the general manager acting. Would you, from the media, would you know whether there was the necessary relevant advertisements and interviews and so forth?
I'm not sure, and that has been one of the concerns raised. I think it did come to attention that he is indeed the general manager acting of that. Whether the position was advertised, whether these are advertisement for a state-owned company, that's a state-owned company that is there. And so if it is that it was advertised, we did not see it. This is a continuation. We would have been coming up against the People's Progressive Party in the past. In fact, we were literally screaming at them as a newspaper, and we know that we have many of our viewers and listeners here. This is one of the things that we said, you must follow procedures. If you're in government, you must follow procedures. If you're going to give out a piece of land, let all in Guyana see the advertisement. You must advertise it, and you must have everybody. It's like a contract. The tenders, you must tender for it. You must have the necessary requirements, the NIS and the GRA compliances and so on. Those are things that you go through, and there must be a committee that is going to be seated there that is going to have to go through this. Mr. Mahipal, go through this process, or did somebody call and say, Yog Mahadeo, I think this is a good position for you. Could you come sit here? What happened to Yog Mahadeo or Gildarie? Can Gildarie sit there as well? I'm not sure. I'm using us as an example because we don't want to call anybody name. But at the end of the day, Yog, very pertinent point. How many of such appointments were made? Where did they advertise it? These are questions, very pertinent questions that will have to be raised. But to answer your question directly, no, we have not seen any advertisements.
Okay. Well, I'm reading there actually what is on their website, so that cannot, it doesn't need any further corroboration. It is just there.
Thank you very much, Yog. So, of course, we want to connect with our people on this beautiful day of ours. It is July the 20th, 2020. In 2 days' time, we're going to be 150 days. That is what, 5 months? 150 days since the March 2nd elections.
Well, it's going to go past Mr. Lowenfield's 156 days, right? Certainly
Yes.
will.
Yes, and so this is something that all Guyanians should be very, very proud that we have five months that we would have been passed, and we going into the Guinness Book of World Records. If there's nothing else that we should be proud of, that is something that we should be. In fact, this weekend we're going to give you guys 2 days holiday, Young and I, Friday and Saturday, to celebrate how we've entered the Guinness Book of World Record. Sarcasm to the highest, Yog, because these are things that we should, as a country, continue to boast about. And our leaders should be or the people who are supposed to be in charge, should be very, very happy that they've made us very famous. That the whole world is looking at us and patting us on the back and says, Yog and Gildarie, you have done very, very, very well. And the world is very proud of you.
Well, Leonard, it's 156 days of agony, 156 days. It's gonna surpass 156 days. It's what, 146 presently, 10 days to go. So by this weekend, it's gonna get past that. And on that note, Leonard, let me just change topic a little bit to acknowledge our Muslim community, our Muslim brothers and sisters. On Thursday will be the day of Arafah, and it is an Islamic day that falls on the 9th day of the lunar Islamic calendar, second day of the Hajj pilgrimage. And so, we certainly want to join our Muslim brothers and sisters in their observance of the day of Arafah. And also, of course, Friday would now be Eid. That has been confirmed as being a public holiday in Guyana. So our prayers will be, thoughts, prayers, and observances would be with the Muslim community this weekend coming, Leonard. On that note, let me just quickly move off to say that, remember Thursday, we're getting the court's decision, the Court of Appeals decision. That will be handed down on Thursday. So, Leonard, if I may, on Thursday evening, room 592, we will be assessing that Court of Appeal decision with no other than Mr. Tony Estefan, Senior Counsel from the Caribbean, accompanied by Mr. Sanjeev Dattadin. I just wanted to bring that into play because that decision on Thursday, we know, will be critical in terms of us seeing where we go from here. Whether either or both of the parties are going to go to the CCJ is another matter, but whether the GCOM chairman will decide that it is time to take matters in our own hands.
Yes, it is. It is. So we are going to bring you live coverage of that. I'm going to give you the time of it on Thursday. On Friday, I'm not sure. Depends how it develops. I guess we'd have to come back and tell you guys about room 592 and, of course, the elections and COVID watch. Yog and I are going to be bringing you up to date with regards to that. In the meantime, today, if you've missed it, the big news is that Komal Chan, union leader, well-known, who would have sat in parliament for almost 2 decades, I think it is, he would have died since, I think, in March or April, and then he was talking in Cuba. Today was his funeral. There were many outpourings of to his family, support for the family, and of course recognition of his impact on Guyana unionism, and of course to the sugar industry. He was very vocal about the workers. His union, the Guyana Agriculture and General Workers Union, would have been the biggest sugar workers union there. So he's been late. There's a cremation for him today after his remains would have returned over the weekend. And the Guyana is also mourning the death of Ian Craddock, who was of the Bushmasters, which is a tourism body down in Region 9 there, based in Region 9, somebody who would have put Guyana on the map when it comes to adventure, and others in our hinterland areas. Ian Craddock, found him dead about a day or so back. And of course, we are going to be headed straight into the phone lines now. 226-7453, 226-7453, 622-222. And you are with us here on Kaicho Radio with Elections Watch COVID-19. And we are bringing you coverage as it is 148 days now since the election. Is somebody on the line already? Not yet, Yog, but we could go ahead quickly, read some messages from our people. Good afternoon, gentlemen. It's just sickening to listen to the state of affairs that Guyana is in. It seems that this is back to Barnum days all over again, and I hope those people back in 2015 who voted for change take note of the change that they voted for. This regime has and only care about themselves and has only the same always the same mentality anytime they hold office. That is instilled in the DNA and will never change. I pray for my Guyanese people. What is the plan for September when school open? Any update from the Ministry of Education? Very good question from one of our viewers, listeners. I could tell you that based what I'm seeing here, based on what is happening worldwide, I would want to recommend that there should be no school opening for September. It is too early. I would not put my kids through that. And I think if the authorities have not come out and say anything, in fact, the Ministry of Education has been very, very, very quiet. I'm not sure whether they are operating, what it is that is happening. We've been calling on them to make more statements. As of now, we had kids writing exams under very stressful circumstances, not only the grade 6, but CSEC and CAPE. And I want to say hats off to the parents and those students as well who would have been under the stress of this whole political impasse over the last couple months. It has not been easy, and you guys are the heroes of our country too, our little kids, our future. They have been there and they have battled and they have persevered. Let us hope. We wish you all the best when the results come out. It is going to be interesting to look at those results and analyze them, Yog, and see whether how much of an impact, looking at the past years, this elections, this whole political times, this nightmare would have had on those results. And so it is something to look at. But to answer the question, Yog, I don't think should be recommended that school be open. I think we're looking into next year. COVID-19 is not going anywhere in a short while. Let's get to the phone. Yes, good day. Yog, over to you. What are your thoughts on the school and the reopening?
Well, Leonard, around the world, let's look what's happening in other countries. Around the world, countries are they're at a point where you're forced to reopen. COVID becomes a part of life, a part of our way of life. We have to continue to be vigilant. Persons have to continue to take things into consideration. And, you look at what's happening all around the world. You see that various governments are almost forced to let the economy reopen. And this is a matter of keeping people above poverty levels. Now it's not a matter of just going back to work because of any other thing, except that you need to work. People need to live. People need to eat. People need to have things in their life. So that's one. And two, Leonard, schools are going to be reopened. What is unique about Guyana's situation is that we continue to be preoccupied with the elections so that no strategic thinking is happening. Okay, schools will reopen. Here is how it can happen. Do we look at a situation, Leonard, where we have to reduce the amounts of children in a classroom? If that happens, what and how will children be accommodated? Because the school sizes are not going to change. And, a lot of things needs to be taken in consideration, and a lot of public stakeholder discussions, inclusive discussion needs to start happening on various sectors of the society. It cannot be that a government must mandate, we think it is best if you do this. It has to be gathering the thoughts and contributions of people across the society. So, Leonard, the public hospitals, the way we have gotten used to getting service from the hospitals are going to change. It is going to change. The schools, as I said, commute to schools, the commute, the minibus, the travels. I know that there are people who are currently breaching it. You stand at the roadsides and you could tick off out of every 5 minibus that pass you, how many are actually crowded. And people don't wear the mask. They feel that, okay, somehow or the other we reach the stage where we feel we have to put on the mask to show the world. And we have forgotten that you're putting on the mask for a matter of protection. It's not a matter of show. It's a matter of protection. So, but all of that, Leonard, cannot happen if we do not have governance in place, because the people are separate and apart from governance. And I think you got to know there. My brother has just sent something in that all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. And this is taken from no other than George Orwell's Animal Farm. And you look at what's happening in Guyana over the past couple of weeks, Leonard, you can see all of this at play. Mm-hmm. Some people are obviously, but to the point in question here, there needs to be strategic thinking. How do we go ahead? How do we go forward? How do we start to manage our affairs? The people who are traversing over the Demerara River with the speedboats, the people who are traversing over the Essequibo River with speedboats, all of those things are going to change. And Leonard, you know what else will change? Prices are going to change. The minibus man has to make 2 or 3 trips to make the same money, or he will have to increase his fare. Now, why I raise that? Because guess what? Guess how the inequality is there when you look from a finance, not economics, but a finance perspective, right? GPL is allowed to continue to earn its money, notwithstanding COVID. GPL did not do any give. It did not give any help to anybody. So it continues to collect its money. But the minibus man out there has to make a give. He has to say, I'm only going to travel with 7 persons. My money being payable to the bank remains the same. I got to work triple time the amount of work to make the same money. GPL has the same money regardless of what happens. So Leonard, there are a couple of, the reason I'm raising this is because the holistic picture of the economy, it is going to be affected and affected seriously. One of the negatives that happened for these elections is the beat up that business sector has gotten. And I'm not talking about the private sector commission as a body. I'm talking about business sector. Strangely, at elections time, the business sector gets beaten quite hard. And at the end of the day, it is the business sector that now has to go through its own reform to make the monies to pay salaries at the bottom and taxes at the top. That's what keeps the country going. So Leonard, a lot of thinking has to happen and has to happen with urgency, but elections are not going to go away anytime soon.
It is. But while that is happening, I think the president and the first lady, the president has come out not too long ago with a statement. I think it is that this morning they were tested for coronavirus, and according to a Ministry of the Presidency statement, in an invited comment, President Granger urged Guyanese to adhere to the various precautionary measures promulgated since March 20th to prevent the further spread of COVID-19. The President urged also that all persons who develop signs and symptoms of the disease to seek medical attention. The head of state reminded COVID-19 is a global pandemic of which there is no cure. He said fighting the pandemic requires collective and continuous actions by all. Yo guys shut me mouth here now. I ain't saying nothing else. You want to say something?
No, there's nothing, there's nothing to say, Leonard. What can you say? Look,
I fighting Mimi. I might say the wrong thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and me too, because it's obvious that the powers that be will look upon us with different eyes, because all men are born equal, but some are more equal than others.
Absolutely.
Leonard. So indeed, one of the things that we have to consider too, Leonard, and as we get into our room 592 tonight, you're going to see that discussion take place about how open we are to have dialogue in this country, political dialogue, that is.
Well, we have to push the thing because this is not normal times. I think people are aware, they're more educated now. They're not going to take. I think people were awakened. I told somebody this, and we have said this. There's an energy about the people that is now that more than ever they are demanding that our country go in a different direction. Can't be the same old, same old. There's a caller line. Caller, good afternoon. You're on the air. Caller, good afternoon, you're on the air. I think we would have lost that quickly to the comments. Good day to you, gentlemen. I have this issue I'd like to highlight. As of 2019, my GPL bill used to be $9,000 to $10,000 per month. Surprising, as we got into 2020, These bills started rising to an reasonable amount. It started at $18,000. As of January, it's way over $25,000 per month. What is my concern is that nobody's coming over to read the meters. Where they getting their reading from? So to be sending these bills, especially around this time, when situation is really tight with almost everyone, and not only GPL is doing the same. GWI is doing the same. The water bill is way past 12,000 up to this month. My question is, what are these people sitting in? I think we get a gist of what that person is saying. Your bill is going up and up. And this morning I was at the gas station, and I'm paying more for gas now. I think based on what I'm seeing here at the Esso gas station and East Bank, let me just pull up the figures that we've seen here. It is 157 for the fuel save. V Power is 171. Diesel $160. Kerosene, they don't have any price for that. But it's obvious that the fuel price is going up. So more pressure on the poor people of Guyana that is happening. And you're paying more for gas. You got to keep the same. Yog did point out, the minibus people are working more for the same money, and so many other areas that you're seeing that too. I think all along the transportation sector, it is the same thing. So we have to
But
continuously.
Leonard, yeah, and let us not underestimate the impact it's going to have. And this has nothing to do with politics. Look, whether it is PNC in government or PPP in government, do we have a caller there? You want to go to the call?
No, no caller there. I'm not
So,
sure, right?
Leonard,
Uh-huh.
regardless whether it is PPP in government or PNC in government, what is obvious is that the economy is going to be impacted severely, seriously. Look, let us just take the commercial banks. The commercial banks, as we speak, they have been able to meet persons in society, and they have been able to reshape your loans and your obligations to the bank. What does that mean to the bank? It means that as we speak, in the months that the bank decide to not take your money or to not accept your money because we have begged for deference, the bank itself would not be receiving a servicing of its own portfolio. So from a banking perspective, then we spoke a bit about the business people in various regions, Street, Rob Street, Corriverton, Linden, wherever they are. The business people would suffer because person's spending power have depreciated drastically. Leonard, when you go back to work, are you going to go back to work to get money to spend, number one, to start putting aside $1 again to make a little bit savings, number two, to start to, school fees are on the rise for private schools. I must say this, it's shocking to see that some of the private schools, some, I'm not saying all, and we are going to work on getting a list of the private schools and how much their rates are increased by, but private schools rates seem to be heading up. So you got to, and then school books and all this stuff for your children. And so how do you start allocating those monies going forward? And again, you will come back to the situation with our children and their health and other services across the country. Whoever takes this government going forward is going to have a very, very, very bleak future, very serious time, politics aside, Leonard.
No, it is serious, and we have spoken about that, Yog. The next presidency is going to be one of the toughest. I think it's probably going to be more tough than even the eighth is, because guess what? Guess what is facing that presidency at the moment? You're talking about a population that is very, very much aware, who's paying every attention to every one of your every move that you're making. They are going to be scrutinizing, they are going to be criticizing it, they are going to be talking about it. So when you're right, you touch on several issues there. School books, school fees, private schools, and everything there. We have to say that if I'm to say to you that we'll have to ban our bellies, to use our local terms, I think it's something that would be an understatement. It is going to be very, very tough. Don't expect that tomorrow morning that this political situation is resolved, that we're going to see right away any changes. This is going to take, I think we're in it because of what's happening around the world. Even if we get a new government tomorrow morning, it's not gonna be right away. We talking here maybe over a year, maybe 2 years, and that all depends on whether the COVID-19 situation is fixed on the globe. I don't think that's gonna come in a very big hurry. Many countries have remained closed, and I think America is gonna go under lockdown again, based on what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and what is obviously uh, badly amiss as we speak is a more proactive role of the central bank in coming up with fiscal measures and the way they're looking at what is happening. Rajiv Viraj is right. The central bank needs to be more proactive in assessing what's happening in the country, Leonard. If we, for example, central bank ought not to be political, right? Central bank ought not to be political, but the central bank needs to speak out with regards to the fluctuation of our exchange rates. Needs to speak out with regards to, don't just issue your bland statements, but speak out about the state of the reserves. What has happened to it? Make some releases that will be meaningful. Because Leonard, look, again I say this: PPP and PNC and whoever else aside, at the end of the day, if the central bank has basically been has had a run on its reserves and has had a decline in its assets, guess who will feel it? The people of this country, regardless of who is in power. Guess who has to work hard to put it back there? Not the government, it's the people, the taxpayers, the revenue generation sectors of this country that has to work doubly and triply hard to ensure things get back to an even keel. So the population needs to have more conversation with persons from the central bank and with persons from the business sector and other stuff like this. I mean, where is the finance ministry other than coming to tell people, oh, the oil money is safe in an overseas bank account? We know that, and thank God it's there. But come out with more strategic thinking. Leonard, the saddest thing, as I said, is that these elections have been ongoing, and that APNO AFC have insisted that they won, and they have insisted that the whole world is wrong except them. But they have not used even one of these 146 days to help the people of this country, to give out some hampers or to give out some monies or to look after people's genuine needs. It has always been political expediency over the livelihood of the people for APNO AFC, Leonard.
Absolutely, and while we're doing that, while the oil prices are going up, there's good news for, if there's nothing else, there's good news for gold. 1,955 US dollars per ounce. But how are they faring? We're not getting any kind of reports there. There's some bad news going on for rice at the moment. I understand that we may have a stockpile which is going to send prices going down a little. There's something going on in the world market. I think everybody wants to release the rice that they would have had right now, and so that's going to affect our rice prices again. We'd have to probably talk to maybe the Nanpasads and the Rice Mill Association to find out what exactly is happening there. Is there a caller online? Yes, caller, good afternoon, you're on the air.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Just as I was saying yesterday, I'd like to make points again. The point I'm making yesterday is that the fact that the GCOM chairman wrote to ask the commissioner to check into this thing, and then find after that that she has no power. If you had no power in the first place, you wasn't supposed to ask the commissioner anything. Secondly, COVID-19, it doesn't seem like we're taking it seriously. And we're jumping every day at an alarming rate. And we should be taking it more seriously, because if we put the measures in place, we can curb this line and bring our country, regardless of politics, at a stable position. But as it relates to the situation in our country, one of the things that's happened consistently over the years in Guyana, I can't remember all the names, IAC, ABDA, and these groups who represent the two major ethnic groups in Guyana, instead of representing the groups, they have been politicized, whether knowingly or not, because they're members of the IAC that are members of the PPP, they're members of AG that are members of PNC. At the end of the day, when it comes to dealing with the racial divide in this country, they cannot speak, because when they speak, their words are not trusted by the other side because they see them as a political representative more than the race that they claim to represent. And the problem that we have in this country is that there is no disrespect to you, me, or anybody else. There is no Indian or African that can get up in this country and speak to this nation, and the people believe what they're saying other than thinking that they have a political line or a political motive. And the problem is that we have been too divided. If there's a problem with our African brothers, the IAC is supposed to be on their side. If there was a problem with our Indian brothers, the others should have been on their side, not to pull aside to represent each other, because we are all God's children. And that is why we are in the position that we're in, and that's why we always be divided, because our groups have been too politicized. Thank you for listening to me. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you very much, sir. And Yog, very quickly before I pass over to you there. Hi, Leonard. Touch on the commercial banks. People are not getting money to pay their loans. Auto sales are taking away the vehicles when you pay for it. Please talk about this. Well, these are one of the many collateral damage that we would have been talking about. So many areas are suffering right now. The closures are obviously going to see people being sent home, and you go down Regent Street and you see a very stark reality. All the businesses almost on Regent Street closing down, but you could see them opening the side door for people going in there, sneaking in people, and I can't blame them. The reason why you see that happening, people are desperate when you have bank loans, when you have mortgages, and so many other things happening. Business people are telling me that the staffers are calling them crying because they don't have a salary, and they said, "Come, open up, let us do something, anything, so we could make some money." I know a couple of business people every month they're buying stuff, they're using little resources that they have left, buying hampers, sending it, giving it to the staff, just so that they won't be able to starve. A lot of business are reporting, or rather, people are reporting that the auto sales people this season like crazy. I'm not sure whether we thinking this through properly. Where are the think tanks in Guyana? Why can't they make some recommendation that if you start doing that, you're gonna end up leaving vehicles which have already been passed to people in your care? How are you gonna sell it? So why don't you give them some more time in the meantime? So it's a give and take situation we've been seeing many of these complaints being raised recently, and we hear you. The banks, I think you did allude to that a little while. We have to get our authorities to be talking a little more what is happening. I'm sure people are saying that they ran out of time. They've been given a couple months in which not to pay the mortgages. We are going to come to a crunch time now where the banks would have to make a decision whether they extend it a little further, do away with their salaries, their profits, the big profits, the $1 billion profits that they would have been making, in order to allow the situation to be given some ease. I'm not sure you're a little more au fait with the financial side of things. Does the laws as they have them now, Bank of Guyana regulations and so, allow banks to indefinitely extend a payment period? Obviously, it has some kind of impact on the deposits and so on.
Those regulations, those regulations can always be reassessed and made to suit whatever pressing circumstances there are. But Leonard, let's not mistake an entity saying they made $1 billion profit as a reflection of the health of the entity. Ultimately, what's going to happen here is that a bank might say, okay, well, let's not say a bank. Let us just say any other private business. You might look at a business. Let us say the mall, at the mall at the seawall. You might want to evaluate the value of the mall based on the value of the property, the holdings there, right? So you say, okay, it's valued, let's say $1 billion. And you say, okay, that's healthy, that's big, that's nice. But how much cash flows do they have? in a period of time in which cash is not circulating in a society because people are not working, the health of an entity is like the health of a family. You don't have cash, you don't have cash. You cannot service your loan at the bank. You cannot service your obligation to employees. Don't forget that those businesses that are open, they're not getting the kind of commercial activities that they would have gotten used to. They still would be expected to pay their employees 100% salaries, and they still would be expected to pay 100% of the employer's NIS contribution to NIS. The employee will be expected to pay 100% of his employee's contribution to NIS, because those are statutory deductions. PAYE is statutory deduction. So even if you work, even though things hard, and this is my point I was going to make earlier and I got sidetracked. So you resume work and you got to go to work. Guess who gets his cut first? The taxman gets his cut first because the money is deducted at source.
Mm-hmm.
So the notion of companies' profit is something that we got to take with a pinch of salt, because cash flow is critical, but also we got to look at the holistic approach to evaluating what is happening in the country. We cannot look at what's happening to one business or one set of businesses and not look at the rest, because it's all intertwined. As I said, if the man who takes the loan, you raise that people are repossessing the vehicles, which I find strange, because that's a zero-sum game. It's a lose-lose. You repossess a vehicle, which you might have to because the person default on paying. Well, the person is default on paying not because of maybe, I don't know, but the person may default on paying not through his own fault of not going to work, but because he couldn't go to work, because the country was shut down. Now, the man who repossessed the vehicle might have said, well, I need to pay to the bank. But then the bank came on this radio station and said, we are willing to discuss with everybody a restructuring of their commitments to the bank.
It is.
Leonard. However, that does not say that the auto agency or whatever they are did not have other cash requirements to pay their staff, to maintain security, to do whatever else they got to do. So they had ongoing real-time costs that they had to find a way to, but repossessing the car is not going to give them cash anyhow. So it's a lose-lose in my view, but I cannot evaluate the thing for them. It requires, as I said, a holistic approach by a number of finance and economists who can look at this country from their own independent perspective.
Absolutely, Yoga. And you know what is shameful out of all this? Because I can't lose this opportunity to say how shameful it is that we not. Why is Yog and Gildarie having this conversation? Why can't the authorities be having this conversation? Why can't Bank of Guyana be taking some kind of proactive stance? Why isn't the Ministry of Finance talking about this? Why is the iPad coming out? Well, iPad is basically a little private. But what about the authorities, the regulators who are supposed to be there looking at these situations, looking at the Bank of Guyana figures, looking at what is coming in through the wires, or looking at the gold receipts? Why are they not coming out and let us start talking, having real conversation and talking about measures, talking about how do we solve the situation? Again, I'm no economist, but I would want to hear those kind of talks coming out from our people, because it is only by having those kind of talks then you're going to have any kind of resolutions. But let's go straight to the lines again. It's something that we have to think about. Good afternoon, caller, you on the air. Good afternoon, caller, you on the air.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
What I'm calling, I'm calling from Diamond.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What is my water bill? I noticed since last month, right? I'm a big boy. I'm at 64 years of age, right? And my water bill last month come to 8,000, 9,000. This month again is same thing. And the previous time, like April and May, it normally be like 5,000, 6,000, and when you go in to query it at PIZAL, they told you have to pay it. There's no alternative. They'll cut you off. It's very hard on us, because the COVID is on. We have an election crisis
And it's very frustrated, my brother. It's very frustrated, you know. I mean, you're getting a job. Now, I work in, I'm a big person. I work in 2 days a week. I have my farm to maintain. 2 days a week, I only can work, right? And it's very, very hard on me. You know, $9,000. I don't have a wash bay. I don't have chicken farm. You know, just me and my wife, and have 2 grandkids with me, and that's all. And $9,000 last month. $9,000. 9,000 change. $9,300 I had to pay this morning for my water bill. You know, and it's very frustrated on me, my brother. Very, very frustrated. And I don't know what these people are doing. They just hold this whole country ransom. They have me in captivity. I don't have what to explain. You know, it's very frustrating, my brother.
I hear
Thank
you.
you.
I want to ask you a question.
Sure, yeah.
When there was no water meter, how much were you paying?
Before that, we used to pay like $741 a month. $741. That's during in the PVP time. $741. Like every 2 months or so, you used to get a bill. Now, since we get a meter, it's beyond. It's beyond. You don't see the people who come read meter. You don't see them no. It seems to me like in the office and just estimate you and just send a bill. I mean, you go in there now, they just tell you, well, you have to pay it. If not, you got to face the consequence of cutting off. And if the cut you off now is $16,000 you got to pay. Of course, like a big man like me, now where should I find those kind of money? I had to bond my belly, strap my waist tight, just to pay that bill off, just to keep my water flowing.
I'm going to say something to you, sir.
Yes.
And I think I might get myself in trouble, but there's a time in somebody's life you got to say enough is enough. Huh? And sometimes in your life you got to make those decisions when you're at the crossroad. I'm going to say to you that there is a body called the Public Utilities Commission.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very good lady there. The chairperson is a lady named Dila Britton. That building there is in Queenstown. I'm going to have to tell you, do not do anything else with regards to payment. Take your bills and see whether you could make contact with that building there.
Okay.
It's the Public Utilities Commission. It's located in Queenstown.
Okay.
And anybody that has a problem with water or your light bill and you don't agree with it, those people there, they're very willing. They've opened branches in Berbice, in Linden, in Essequibo. Of course, in Georgetown, they have it there. And they are the ones who resolve issues with water bills and so on. I think you have a very clear case if you're moving from those kind of figures to $9,000. I think you have a very clear case to present it to the Public Utilities Commission.
I caught you last month before the last. My wife used to come to like with me 4,000, 5,000. I tried to think, but now we gone beyond. Actually double. You know, double, and it's very hard on us.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, my brother. Have a blessed day.
Public Utilities Commission. Please take in the case there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes. Yog, would it be proper of me to say to the people who were affected not to do anything but to go to the public utilities and let them try to resolve it there if the utilities company are not doing anything?
Absolutely, Leonard. Absolutely. If members of the public feel that that they are aggrieved by an erroneous bill, it's not just a bill. If you feel that there has been a material error, I would think if there's a material error, if you feel that the utility has not been treated you in a manner that you ought to be treated with regards to your rates and stuff like that, then yes, the Public Utility Commission would certainly want to ask the water utility in this case to explain why the sudden increase in the person's bill. But at the same time, the PUC might expect that we should be vigilant in our own regard. We should also be very responsible in our own regard so that you don't send them on a chase. So the PUC is not going to be able to give you COVID-19 help, or is not going to be able to negotiate with the utilities to say, oh, things hard, give them on a break. What I find a little strange, Leonard, and I wish to say that GPL has done well. I wish to give GPL some credit. Forget all the bad service or anything else that they say. Let's just focus on this two positives. One, is that GPL has said to persons, we'd be willing to restructure your commitments to us. That is good. And they may be acting within the confines that they are forced to act. So that is something good. And the second one that I heard that they have done is that they have gone around when they send people to your place to cut off your light. They don't just cut it off. They tell you, listen, go in and pay a little bit on this bill. We know things hard, but pay something down and show us that you pay it, and we'd be willing to wait a day or two or whatever. I've heard 2 or 3 reports of that, and if that is so, it is an excellent initiative, and it is where we are looking out for each other. I see you smiling. I don't know if you would have heard, but I heard from 2 or 3 persons that experienced this.
Well, let me tell you this. I'm thinking here how we have a set of crazy people, and I got to put my words very careful here. Imagine you got a mortgage, right? You're probably a single parent, or you got a mortgage on your property. You can't pay your light bill, and the bank is giving you some time to pay. GPL is giving you some time to pay. You've lost a job. What kind of people do we have in the society here? How are they making out? This is a country that does not get a check like how the United States. One of my friends, I went over the other day by him to collect something, and he's showing me he's an American citizen, has come back here, and through the American embassy here, the American embassy called him. I think it is, or the post office called, somebody called him, but there's a check there for him for $2,800, I think it is, 2,800 US dollars. They've given help to the people, COVID-19 help. We don't have that luxury here. So my fear, and this is no joke or anything, Yog, I am really, really worried for our mental side of things, for people well-being, mental well-being, if you want to put it, with this entire elections, COVID-19. Many people are going to tell you that I am not sure how I'm going to move on here. I have a mortgage to pay. The bank give me a couple months. One of my good friends who work in taxi called me a couple of days back. He says, "Do you have any hampers, Gildarie?" I said, "Why?" He says, "I haven't been able to work. My wife has been put on 2 days a week, and I can't pay my mortgage." And I couldn't picture him. He's not a guy. He's a very proud guy. He would never ever ask you for that. But people coming down to the reality when you're gonna put food on the table, they don't care. They're gonna ask. They're gonna put pride aside, and they're gonna do it. I'm worried, Yog. I'm worried for people with all the stress that is happening to them.
Yeah, indeed, it is tough. And Leonard, let me just acknowledge Margaret Charles, one of our viewers online. Thank you, Margaret Charles. That is an excellent suggestion you have made there. And, ladies and gentlemen, the advice is that if you think the estimate on your bill is totally incorrect, take a picture of your meter and take it with you when you go into GWI to make your payment. If you're questioning the amount on your meter itself, that's another matter. But if you believe you have been overestimated, Margaret, thank you for that. That is an excellent suggestion, Leonard.
Yes, absolutely. There, Yog, there's another caller line. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. I think we would have lost that. Good afternoon, caller. Yeah. In the meantime, let's go back to the messages. Yog spell check has changed your name to YAO. I don't know if you pronounce it Yao. Okay, in any case, Yao and Leonard, there's no moral leadership. These AFC personnel that voted for the coalition is holding their heads and crying. What you buy is what you wear. VAT and everything has killed the economy. If it was not for immigrant remittances, Guyana would have collapsed already. Guyana's balance of payments are in the red. Now, immigrants from all over are invading Guyana. If these people get Guyanese citizenship, what will happen to our next generation? Oil is a curse. Look at what is happening all over the world. May Allah guide and help less fortunate brothers. We're suffering overseas in the Gulf countries and the Western world. Can you imagine what is happening to our local brothers? I rather presume there's somebody who's living overseas. In the meantime, let him read the meter and see if it corresponds to the reading of the bill. If it is, then the consumption is correct. But what Yog is saying is that the office do not take it. What you have to do is take a picture of someone from GPL or GWI technician, and they have to be present when you take it. That is a suggestion. Today, I like to share a few thoughts with my Guyanese brothers and sisters. We were all born with racism. In this normal state, it's like a sleeping labaria. That's a snake. Let alone it's harmless. Left alone, it's harmless. People live peacefully with each other. This was the case before 1960. This labaria was disturbed in the 1960. We know what followed. Today, the politicians are doing the same to us. The results will be the same. As a people, we should not allow ourselves to be dragged down this dirty path. The politicians will fulfill their objectives, but we will be left to suffer the painful consequences. Some politicians do not want to give up power. They justify the stand by claiming to protect the interest of their supporters. Fellow Guyanese, this is a facade. They only care about themselves. If they cared about us, they would not have held public meetings across the country. When you consider COVID-19, again, when the sanctions kick in, no one will be spared. They have the resources to cushion the shocks. We will bite the dust. So brothers and sisters, let's not cry about the pain. Let us do something about the pain. And that is coming from a heartfelt um, uh, somebody who is feeling it. Let them, okay, well, I did read that one there. Yog, I gotta read this one here. Yog, you look in a mannish mood today, not forgetting all the sarcasm. I'm not sure, Yog, you wanna respond to that? What is the mannish mood?
No comments.
Okay, good afternoon, gentlemen. I don't know how to pronounce this, but Bahut Shukriya Achakam Kado. Keep it up. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Bahut Shukriya.
And it said some at. Look, Raj is laughing. I'm not even gonna attempt this, yoga. This is crazy now, man. And the boys are
Yeah.
looking at me and they're laughing and said, "I wonder this old guy in the thing. He's trying to be like an Indian here." And even Kevin is laughing his head off here. I'm not gonna do that. Forgive me, guys, if I've done something evil to the Hindi language here. But there's a caller online. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air? Good afternoon, caller. You on the air? Could you lower your radio volume, please?
Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Am I on the calling program?
Yes, you are. You are on air.
One congratulate Mr. Gildarie and Yog. And I want also to coax them because, as everybody knows, people shattered in this country and only hope they're holding on to. And this program, this cultural radio program, is giving them that hope. So they must be careful, keep away from the borderline, because these people can jump up charges and all of that, and close down the station even temporarily. And if this hope is not there, what will happen to our people? We will lose them. Please, both you, Mr. Gildarie and Yog, do that. Keep away from crossing your borderline with your whatever legal framework you got. In the name of continuing to give hope to your citizens, your brothers and sisters all over that. I'm very happy with what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Do that.
Thank you very much, dear caller. Have a pleasant rest of the day. And of course, we all from time to time need the love from our people. It is what will move this country forward. It is what will rescue us from this very dark place that we've gone into. There's a message here. I've taken a personal loan from Scotia since February, and without needing to make a request, they have not taken any money out of my account for my loan from February to now. Very good. If that is indeed the case, you have somebody saying that one bank has been responsible, very responsible. Private schools are demanding the full fees for all the terms, no concern for cash-strapped parents due to COVID. It's a difficult thing, Yoga. Maybe we'd have to come back another day. What private institutions can and cannot do, what should be good comment, what should be fair comment. These are private bodies, private companies which have opened private schools. I think they run from very low margins or even if big margins. Could you and I, Yog Mahadeo, talk about private schools and what they're charging, or is that in the private realm?
No, you operate in a public paradigm. There's nothing that is so secret that it cannot be discussed. The private schools, they teach our children and the children of our friends, and they ultimately, Leonard, somehow or the other, as a society, we lose sight of a number of things. It happens in societies as a normal thing anyhow. Look, if your child goes to a school at which you pay $100,000, Leonard, and if my child goes to a school in which I go to public school and so I don't pay any money, does it mean that I do not contribute to your child school fees? I contribute. One of the things with a society and with an economy is that everybody, one way or another, you contribute to everything else. In other words, you are at the newspaper. You are getting your money, your salaries there. If I don't buy your newspaper, will you be getting the money through which you'll be affording to send your child to school? And so your newspaper is a private outfit, a private entity. The fact that it can have an impact on the Guyanese space means that we must do so. And by the way, I mean, the school, they offer education on an open space, and the curriculum fits in with the national education curriculum. That being said, though, the rates of the private schools, I think it is something that needs to be assessed, needs to be addressed. In any other country of the world, you would see publications being done, comparison of school rates and school fees across the country, right? These things are public knowledge, and they must be there to guide and to educate people. It is not any secret.
It's an interesting conversation, Yog, because we got to understand that if you're living in a country, there's going to be regulators. Like for the utilities, there's a Public Utilities Commission. For the broadcasters, the radio station, the television station, the cable companies, you're going to have the Guyana National Broadcasting Authority, GNBA. And you could go on and on looking at it, the Police Complaints Authority, all those are regulators. And I rather presume you can't have a private school that is going to be there and just believe that they could operate. Who looks after to see whether the curriculum is being regulated or it is in keeping with the standards that the school system demands for that particular age group that's being taught. So yes, you're right. I understand. Thank you for bringing clarity on that. There's a caller online. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air. Good afternoon, caller. You're on the air.
Yes. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thank you very much for your patience and continuing with the program. I know it's going on to almost 5 months.
Mm-hmm.
You're on it. Very good job. A couple of things. Number one, I know the GCOM chair, she's, so far we can see that she's doing the right thing, and so on. But, when it comes to these court matters, I cannot understand how is it there is no stay, there is no injunction against GCOM. And she's just taken, as people would say, that she taken undertaking to wait on the court. Because some people might say, I heard other people say because she's a former judge and she likes to wait on the court and these things. But she is now the GCOM chairman. She's not there because you put she to judge, to do a judge work at GCOM. She got to do the chairman's work. Now, look when she didn't give Lowenfield, the other Lowenfield to do the bring his report with the recount numbers, and she give him the next day up to 10 o'clock. And when he refused to do that. Afterward, when she sent him back again, she gave him till 2 o'clock the next day. By the time that Apnu come up with a court case 1 o'clock, that it didn't look good. I don't like this. Now, she gave him enough time to do that. I mean, these are things we gotta look at and see between the lines what is going on. Now, when on Thursday when the appeal court gonna rule, let's say when the rule, we know what the ruling is. It will be rather strange to see something else in Apnu's favor, which I doubt that. Now, if they say they're going to go and appeal to the court of the Caribbean Court of Justice, no injunction, no stay, is it she going to say that we're going to wait because somebody filed something? Or look, the last time at the High Court, when there was no stay, no injunction, and the lawyer said, for the chairman said, we're going to wait as normal. Then you can't do that. There's a country. People are suffering. Mind you, while these people are waiting, the chairman are waiting, they're getting a fat salary. They're paid. They're being paid while other people is out of a job and they're waiting for these things to settle. And we're going to wait. No injunction, no nothing against them. And we're waiting until the next day for the foolishness. And they're getting a good salary. That's number two. I heard these ministers and all that, we know they're caretakers and all of that. When before election, I think Ms. Gildarie said they're supposed to hand over the key, and they're supposed to, because they're not ministers anymore. No, they're still getting a pay and they're still functioning. Why is it these liars for the opposition or somebody can't file something so they must stop their pay? They are prolonging with this thing as long as possible because they're getting a fat salary. They don't care about nobody, the poor people out here, and they're just getting, and they're going to go on and on with this all the time. I think the PVP should look into this, or somebody should file something. But then we look at the politics part. That's what you have to look at. They don't want to do that. But that's the road they got. If these ministers ain't getting paid, and GCOM ain't getting paid when they're waiting, you will see speed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the time to talk. I appreciate it a lot. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you very much, caller. And Yog, yes, it is. On Thursday, there is going to be that big ruling from the Court of Appeal. I think this is the 13th, 14th court case. I'm not sure, Yog. I've lost count. Let's stop counting. What I just do know is that the people have been numbed by all the ins and outs and all the twists and turns and the shameful displays by some characters that have been coming out. But the GCOM chair will be faced with some very difficult, well, not difficult, but with some choices after that court case decision on Thursday as to whether there is going to be a request from lawyers to take the matter from the CCJ and whether the GCOM chair will, or we're going to see the lawyer for her standing up or sitting down and saying that the GCOM chair is going to comply. Well, that's another thing. Let's wait and see what happens. Yog, your thoughts? What do you think?
We got to wait and see what's going to happen indeed, Leonard, because I think as a nation we are hoping that the chairman could decide, look, enough is enough, and it's time we take matters into our hands, because after this case is being heard, then what? Will there be another case? Will it just continue on and on and on? Interesting to note that Amna Ali in her Linden speech yesterday did not have anything good to say about the chairman. But, you know, that's par for course, I guess, in this place called Guyana. But Leonard, that being said, I just want to remind everyone that we continue to look at the court case. And tomorrow night, well, tonight we have in room 592, you and I will be having Tim Jonas, we'll be having Miss Rhonda and Lamb and Bishop Ejil in room 592 to talk about this whether to negotiate or not. Remember Mr. Mark Phillips, Brigadier Mark Phillips, in room 592 last Monday, Monday before last, would have said that one cannot negotiate with a knife at your neck. How can you negotiate on this sort of thing? So tonight we want to get into that discussion in a more serious sense. What are the various parties' thoughts about this call for negotiation and stuff like that? We have invited Mr. Lennox Schumann. I've also sent off an email yesterday to the Prime Minister to ask for him or a party or a representative to join us tonight, but there's been no response as usual. So there's that discussion tonight. Tomorrow night, Leonard, I just want to share with everybody our lineup. Tomorrow night will be another yet very, very invigorating and exciting night, because we're going to have a discussion with Sir Ron Sanders in room 5 tomorrow night. Now, and here is why we want to line that up. There will be, more than likely, shortly after the Thursday's decision, there will be another OAS meeting. And so we want to have Sir Ron Sanders, if that is so, we want to have his thoughts on it and discuss other matters with regards to the more holistic, regional, international kind of view of what's happening here, Leonard. So we got three very, very strong days ahead of us. That being said, Tony Astafan and Sanjeev Datted in for Thursday night to assess the decision itself.
Absolutely. Thank you very much there, Dr. Yog Mahadeo. Let me see. I think there's some messages here. Good afternoon, Yog and Mr. Gildarie. What will happen to us as a Guyanese people? Do we have to wait until Mr. Granger concede and his administration? Is it possible the UN can it has to be resolved, this situation that we're facing now? Well, there's a situation, the United Nations being involved with Guyana is a different ball game altogether. I'm not sure we would have spoken about outside intervention, and there would have been many thoughts being proffered on this. What we have right now is that the United States have already indicated that it's taken actions. That's by visa revocations of several persons in the coalition, starting at the top with President David Granger, going downwards. While they have not officially named names, our sources are telling us that they're mostly members from the cabinet, 40 plus names, including some journalists, some media personnel, and they are looking at a few persons within the United States also who would have been coming out and talking things, maybe lending a shoulder, propping up the coalition during this time here. They are looking at those people, our sources are saying. And while we're talking about it, Canada is also working. We expect that this weekend here, Yog, and this is something before we go to the lines back, we have to take note during that OAS meeting recently, the Permanent Council meeting, several persons would have spoken and they represent their countries. Canada would have spoken, pointing out that it was Britain that is moving very, very quickly on rolling out measures similar to what the U.S. would have done. I don't think there would be much worry about Britain with visa revocations. It's mostly the U.S. However, it's very clear line that the Britain will move like the U.S., but also they have other restrictions that they could put into place, other sanctions, and that involves help from European Union and so on, and Britain and so. So I rather suspect that is going to come very, very quickly. We could expect within the next couple of days, immediately after that Court of Appeal cases, that there is going to be some announcements, and we have to continuously pay attention to those developments. I rather suspect it's going to happen very, very quickly. Our sources are saying that. So I just wanted to share that with you. Maybe some quick calls. Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You on the air?
Hello?
Yes, you're on air. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
I am calling. I was trying a long time to get through with you, but happily, thank God I can get through with you.
Yes.
Sir, this is nearly 4.5 months, going to 5 months I am working. And it's very hard on me. I live in the Grove Squatted area.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a little sickly too, right? I have diabetes and depression. So, and I apply the social protection for help. I didn't get no help, and I am actually I don't really have nothing to really survive on.
All right, we're gonna come off here right now. My guys have promised me that I'm not gonna take any numbers on here. So one moment, sir. Let me take it. Could we call you back? What's the number? What's the number, sir? 6 Thank you very much, sir. We give you a call back. Thank you very much. Our apologies there. Thank you very much. We took a call there online. Yog and many stories like this that is coming out there. Let me see if there's some other that we could probably take. Good day to you, gentlemen. Um, my condolences to the family of Mr. Komal Chan. There are many advertisements of contracts for different situations. I wonder who is responsible for the finances pertaining to these contracts. A lot of things going on while we're starving, robbing, and all kinds of things happen, and somebody should be paying attention to that. Let me see also. Uh, no, we can't take any racist kind of comments. No, you guys don't do that. Thursday's decision will be unanimous. Then all hell will break out at GCOM. Will Lowenfield submit the recount figures? God knows best. Good afternoon,
In
gentlemen.
this
Dr.
case,
Yog.
Lowenfield knows best.
Pardon, Yog?
In this case, Lowenfield knows best.
I gotta be Yog. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Dr. Yog and Brother Pablo. Keep up. We have some comedians in the house. Keep up the good, great fight for democracy as both of you have been doing since the fraud has been exposed. You're the people's voice of basic rights and freedom. Don't give up. Keep up the good work. I think they're talking to Kevin. Kevin is Pablo. I'm not sure how they come up with Pablo there. But whatever it is, we appreciate the humor in it. I do appreciate that. There's another caller online. Could we go ahead? Yes. Good afternoon, caller. You're here.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
You know, I'm trying to call you guys doing a wonderful job.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
What is result of this election? If people are died down here, nobody don't come and look your bush. People don't care about nobody here.
Where you living?
We live in Tilly Barbies, bush that we calling from.
Slot. That is West Babis.
Yes. Me get a 3 o'clock a morning election for all you cast me vote, and until now, you can't go to government. And then get 3 kids a house is not easy. And there's nobody don't come and tell you nothing here. Right. And then you get a sick husband.
Wow. And the situation in Bushlat there, what's the situation like there for families?
What am I tell you? That's just like when nobody they just take your vote just like that, they can know you and dump you. That's just like you. You plant a garden, even to the garden, now the rain falls. You do domestic work, people don't get money to pay where you're going to go work.
Right.
It's really hard with these people and all about themselves.
All right. Thank you very much. Any other points you want to make, ma'am? Hello?
I was trying long to get down to y'all, but me not get down to y'all.
Man, I gotta blame the boys. I'm in the studio here. Sometimes they don't do the work. I want to send them home, But no, it isn't the truth. We have only one line and we try to accommodate as much calls as possible.
Okay.
So just forgive us for that. We are going to fine tune this. Yoga and I are working on it as we get through this entire period here. We are going to make sure that this becomes more and more of a people's program. And so we're working on that. Thank you very
You
much.
guys take care. You guys doing a wonderful job.
Yes, yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
All right.
So we come down to wrap up time on the program here. It is elections, COVID-19 watch, and what can we tell you? We are preparing for that court case. There is going to be a decision by the Court of Appeal on Thursday. This morning, Guyana said goodbye to the union leader Komal Chan of Gao. Gao is the biggest sugar union in Guyana, and they would have had been looking after or representing workers within the timber industry as well, and so many other places across Guyana. But he was well known for being long in the trenches, being a parliamentarian, one of the executives within the People's Progressive Party, two, and of course, from time to time, statements, lots of run ins there with Guy Suko over the years. What is known is that he's also been very outspoken on issues with regards to the sugar industry as well and the way forward. So condolences there again, and of course, all the persons attending his funeral service would have spoken about his impact, his contribution towards not only to unionism in Guyana, but of course to the whole state of labor and within Parliament. His voice rang out, although small man, his voice would ring out across the chambers, the hallowed chambers of the National Assembly there. So you stood tall during your time, Mr. Chan, and I think so many other persons would be saying the same thing. A very quiet guy. Don't have to agree with his politics, but he was always very respectful, Yog, whenever I had the opportunity to speak with him. Very patient, and you could ask him on anything, and he would sit down and explain it. And he had an institutional knowledge, could tell you back years back what went on and so on. So condolences to the family again, and friends and colleagues. Over to you, Yog, as we wrap up.
Yes, Leonard, indeed, condolences to the trade union movement in Guyana. Don't forget that Mr. Komal Chand would not have just been the head of the sugar union as we know, but he would have been representing workers' interests outside of Guyana. He would have also been, spearheading a lot of the efforts for easure of the plight of workers in and out of Guyana. Though you would have to keep the whole evolution of the sugar industry. Well, maybe it's the decline of the sugar industry in mind, and you have to go back to the 1980s when the Burnham administration would have decided that it was going to do what it wanted with the sugar industry, Leonard. It is from those going back to 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. GAU would have been in the forefront, and it is against those that backdrop that Komal Chan would have risen up and taken leadership of that union. Where it goes from here, we'll have to wait and see. And indeed, where does trade unionism go from here? We'll have to wait and see. I think one of the saddest things that would have happened to trade unionism historically is that it got itself caught into politics.
Yep.
So the trade union on all sides, going back to Joseph Polydor's days, and now Lincoln Lewis and Komal Chand and so forth and so on. You were seeing them. But that being said, Komal Chand will be remembered for a long time. He stood. A lot of people could not have understood why some of the things he did, why it was done, but he genuinely stood on the side of the workers, Leonard. He stood on the side of the workers, and he stood for the workers more than I think a lot of the workers would realize. When a lot of political divisions happen in this country with AFC, and a lot of things were being said about Komal Chand's ineffectiveness and so forth, but I think all of that was just the speak of politicians. The man stood tall and large in this country, and his legacy will be there for a long time to come, Leonard, undeniably, undoubtedly. So today, is a change of hands, passage of an era kind of thing, but the monumental figure that Komal Chand is will remain huge in Guyanese landscape for a long time.
Well, I think there's some up and coming, very remarkable persons still remaining in the union there. Not, I'm talking specifically with Gao there. That is Sipal Narines and the Aslims and so on. So I think they just have to regroup and look back. I think for the longest while, in fact, it was Sipal and Aslim them were leading the way because Komal was out of it for a little while. You would see him from time to time coming out and making statements, but he was ailing. But of course, unfortunately, we winding down to that time to say goodbye. We're going to be with you back at 7:30, room 592. Dr. Yog Mahadeo is going to be leading the way there. Interesting, don't miss that at 7:30, room 592. We're going to have a couple of leaders here from the political parties talking about talks, and so we're going to see you there. In the meantime, thank you very much, Bushlot. Barbies, a good day to you, Barbies, right across Demerara here in Diamond Grove area. Good day to you, folks. Linden, Region 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I hope I didn't miss anybody there. Region 11, that is New York. I think it's New York, yo. Canada, how you guys doing? Brazil, Suriname, Trinidad. And of course, if I miss you guys, forgive me. I'm a little hungry at the moment. So I want to say good day to you and have a pleasant rest of the day as usual. Much love and thank you for joining us.
Kite Your Radio.
Covering Guyana from coast to coast.
Demerara and Essequibo 99.1 FM.
Berbice 99.5 FM. Kite Your Radio.
Disinfect and clean my home with DisiClean. When using DisiClean, my house gets super clean.